All right, welcome everybody to the comic panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Taylon.
And I'm Shawenta.
And today we are going to be discussing To Your Eternity by Yoshitoki Oima. So, Shawenta, you chose this book. It's a manga. You want to tell us a little bit about it and why you chose it?
I've never read it before. I picked it up at the bookstore, and people are always saying that it's a really sad story. They're like, oh man, you cry so much during it. And it's like, well, I need that in my life. So I kept, almost reading it, and I was like, oh, maybe I should save it for the show recently. So I was like, okay. So, and I figured we'd read the first 2 volumes because, typically we read like the first volume and we're like, it was weird. Like, I don't think I'd read more. I was like, maybe we need just a little bit more acclamation, like to get a better idea. I don't know. It's also just an excuse to read 2 volumes. I was actually worried about that because, we try to keep it to like 1 volume because like comics over here, just reading 1 volume is already so much. Mm-hmm. But actually it ended up being really easy. I forgot how like smooth manga tends to be with their pacing. Mm-hmm. Like it's at least easy to read.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it made sense once I saw the chapter breakdown for Volume 1 and Volume 2, because, like, Chapter 1 is just 5 chapters, and then Chapter 2 is, 7?
Or Volume 2, yeah.
Or Volume 2, that's what I meant to say, yeah. So, yeah, it made sense. And also, like you said, the pacing is just, like, a lot better. Yeah, I also saw a review on Amazon for it that somebody said this is like the perfect manga, like for beginners and stuff. And I was like, I don't think I agree with that.
Yeah. But not so sure about that.
All right.
You love manga? Read this.
Yeah, it kind of seems like people who are all like, well, it's just like really, really good. People that might like the first American comic you should read is Watchmen, like, no, that's not quite right. You won't understand really what it's getting at.
No.
Disagree, Taylon. Hard disagree.
Well, in what he's saying, yes, I agree. In that it's not a good first.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Also, I didn't realize until after we'd read it that this is by the same person who did A Silent Voice, which is was a really popular anime movie, which also came from the manga that person wrote. Which people were saying A Silent Voice because I've seen it, and well, I guess my review is too sappy, I guess, too wholesome.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah, I liked it. It was fine.
Well, I couldn't get through the first few minutes.
Oh, gosh.
Wow, okay.
I don't know. Sometimes things are just too nice. You're like, this is weird.
I mean, it was like, there was lots of drama. Anyway, whatever. We're not talking
there
about
was, but it was always like, oh my God, I was mean to people. The angst is just what I felt.
I don't know. You gotta get into the angst of the person suffering, though. Not as much the more POV character who was mean. But anyway, I digress.
This is not about A Silent Voice, unfortunately.
And for context, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that needed to be said, but
you're the mediator. You're the middle ground, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, so this book, it's about a immortal being, kind of.
An immortal orb.
An immortal orb.
I mean, it literally is just an orb at first.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, for the most part, he, him pronouns. They give him a masculine name, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he starts as an orb, and then he, becomes a rock, just sort of like copying things around him is what he can seem to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he eventually meets a wounded wolf and copies it and like follows where it came from, and he meets a boy. And the boy being, I guess, abandoned. Like, he was left to take care of the elders by his village, and his village left to go to paradise, in quotation marks. Like, that's what they refer to it as. It's just, like, undisclosed location that way. And, he's, his grandparents passed away, and so he's left all alone, and so he just mostly talks to the wolf. And he's like, oh, you were wounded. I'm so happy you came back. Johan, is that it? The wolf's name?
Yeah.
It looks like Joanne.
I think that's pronounced Johan.
Yeah. Yeah, probably Johan.
Fancy pronunciation. Which actually, that makes me think that they're more Anglo-Saxon, that village. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it was kind of like interesting, I definitely, it seems like we're maybe not like on this version of Earth, like it's like a like slightly fantasy world, not like fantasy like elves and stuff, but like just like different geography and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting though. There isn't any actual magic. There's just like superstition and people are pretty typical, but yeah, it does seem to like not placeable. Like they have all these different names for things that I just don't think can be equivalized.
Yeah.
But so he's with the boy, and the boy's trying not to show up. He's obviously distraught. He has that part where he draws the faces of all the villagers on the wall that he can remember using blood. And I think it's like around then that he decides to follow in their footsteps. He's like, we've been left behind. We can't just sit here and wait for them. Let's have an adventure. Let's go out and try to follow their footsteps. And obviously he's got that part where he's like gets hurt. I think he falls through the ice into the water, but then also he gets stabbed on something. And he's like, it's healing. It's like clearly not healing. He bandages up, but yeah, days and days go by and he keeps walking. He's pretty much like, I'm just going to keep going until I don't have strength anymore. And he's following these little arrows on the rocks. And he's like, this is a sign that they went this way. Paradise must be so great that they're just not coming back. And they get to the point where they find the last rock, which has a special symbol on it, which probably means something along the lines of death. Or
I thought it was just it was an arrow like the ones before, but then it had a big X.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't interpret that. But I mean, symbolism.
Yeah.
But yeah, he finds, what kind of looks like burial / just ruined remains of wagons and wagons. So, everybody didn't make it.
Yeah.
From what he can tell.
Yeah.
And he's badly wounded and like just starving probably. He's just disrepair. And, the wolf. Which, okay, so later the immortal character gets named Fushi. So we'll just refer to him as Fushi, I guess, for now. But, Fushi's with him too. And the boy, he's distraught, so he goes back to the village, which, my God, that must have taken a while.
Yeah, I know. It was like kind of like just that like instant, like, okay, we're there. And I was like, wow, that really sucks because you were traveling for days before, and now you just like without any other like, telling the reader it must have been one day that you just traveled back. Or I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it was the same
I don't think so. I think it's probably the same amount. It's just, there's nothing important to see there.
Right.
It's just more stumbling around, weakened. But he pretty much asked, his wolf companion, Fushi, to not forget him. And then he dies. Because he's just become so weakened. And I think from that emotion, because, he fed Fushi and he talked to him as if he was a person to the point where it sort of taught him emotion, I think is what it's trying to get across. Or just at least taught him stuff like eating, because before that he just didn't do that.
Yeah. It was defined as like stimulation, right? Or
Yeah,
stimuli.
stimulus. But from the heartbreak of the boy dying, the wolf is able to take his form in some ways,
Yeah.
as a way of not forgetting him.
Mm.
So
Well, it's also to note that the orb at the time, which was like moss or something, only turned into the wolf after the wolf died. And so the same thing with the boy. The boy died, and it turned into the boy.
I wasn't entirely sure. Like, I can go along with that. But it wasn't clear to me that the wolf had died.
I don't know if the thing needs death necessarily.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Because, well, we can talk about that, because I think that is sort of a plot point later on with the bear. So yeah, Fushi as the boy stumbles on, and each time, he reaches like a breaking point where he dies. And then I think it says 7 times. And each time that happens, he gets quicker at regenerating and coming back, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so then the second part of the story, this is like, these are 2 volumes in a 16-volume run so far. So.
Yeah.
But no, so the next characters we get introduced to is this other village, which is much more reminiscent of like northern Japanese. I mean, like you said, it's not supposed to be super specific, I think. So there's the little kid, March, and she's, one of like 3 children in the village. There's Laura, and there's her little baby sister. But she just wants to grow up because she doesn't have too many people to play with. She has an older playmate, who's like probably a teen.
Yeah.
Perona, the girl.
Babysitter is what.
Yeah. I mean, she likes playing with her. They play house and stuff. Bringing her the little crab. That was cute. But the village, what it comes out is that the village believes in the bear spirit. I don't remember entirely like protector or just, in general, they believe in sacrificing to the bear spirit. And so they need someone, typically, as they say, an unsullied young girl is who they need. So they end up bringing in, so the place they're in is, it's going to be hard to say the name, Nina Na? Nina Na?
Yeah.
I was saying Nanana.
I mean, it's close, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about that. I was like, it's not quite Ninana, but it's Ninana, which is like pretty much the same. But
So we find out later that place is considered like a holy land sort of area. And there's a lot of villages in there. But yeah, so from outside the Holy Land, there's the place Yanome, which I think that's pretty close to like feudal Japan, I would say.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's a lot... it's a lot like, feudal Japan.
Gotcha.
And so they bring in a psychic, or not psychic, a shaman lady from it. And she chooses from the little children, chooses March as the sacrifice. And pretty much, March, being a little kid, doesn't totally understand it. Like, I'm going to die, so that means I don't get to grow up and be, an adult and get to have my own family like she wants. And they're like, yeah, you don't get that. You have to die. And so she's obviously upset by that. But they have, people from Yanome. What's her name?
Oh, the one that's like really good at shooting the bow and arrow.
Well, that's Is Perona good at that?
Well, she's good at that too, I guess.
Actually, no, Perona. That wasn't Perona bad at
Oh,
shooting.
yes.
So they're
Yes.
like, "Come watch," and she just like
Yeah.
completely misses the target.
Came in there with like all surety of mind, I got this, and she just misses all of them.
Yeah.
That was great anticipation because it's always like, oh, show off like the super good
Yeah.
bowmanship. So the people from outside, the people from Yanome there's the lady, I don't know how to describe her, but she's like a guard lady. She's just somebody from outside. Her name is Hayase. We don't get to hear her name too often.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was her name.
So she's meant to guard March until the ritual, and along with a few of the other guards, they bring her up to the ritual place, and I think pretty much they put her to sleep and then just tie her down, and they're like, well, come back in a year, see what's left. She's like, oh my God. They don't even kill you.
Yeah.
Well, they do. They just leave the bear to do that.
Well, I don't think they ever, because this bear shows up, the spirit bear. Well, they call it the spirit bear. It's just a bear in actuality. The bear shows up, but they're like, oh my God, a bear? So I think they literally just like tie you down and you maybe you wake up later, but you're fine. You're tied down for a year. So yeah, you're not surviving that, which is like.
It's like the witch, right? If you, from Monty Python, if you sink, you are not a witch. If you float, you are a witch. Something like
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a real thing too.
I mean, I don't
Well, I
think
mean-
they expect them to survive. They're just
Right.
like, we'll see what's left.
Well, yeah. So like, but in Monty Python, it's like either way you die.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize that was the implication. I thought that it was like they were going to like kill March, but then like the bear came and they got distracted.
I'm pretty sure they just tie them down and leave them there. Which
Gotcha.
like, it's a child.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's-
mean, child sacrifice.
Well,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Gotta
Regardless,
sacrifice.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess this isn't the place to debate it. Like, is it better if you slit their throat?
Yeah.
You're like, get it over with, or just tie 'em down.
No.
That's-
The elements will take care of it.
I learned about those kind of moral dilemmas in ethics.
Gotcha. The simple answer is you just don't do that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Oh
Good
yeah,
point,
what's the
Kaylon.
joke? It's the trolley. It's the trolley thing, right? Like, which way do you go?
You just don't do anything.
Well, yeah, multi-track drifting. But there's this one YouTube video of like, people who love to do the little train things, and they have where it does the multi-track drifting. It stops right before the people. Solution: just don't get either.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we've come to in this occasion. Maybe just don't sacrifice the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy idea. Okay, so March almost gets sacrificed, and then a huge bear shows up.
This is a huge bear.
A huge bear. Okay, actually, we skipped a part where March.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so March, Perona, the older girl from her village, tries to save March by like distracting the guards using arrows and stuff. I'm pretty sure. And March runs off because, like, despite the fact that her parents are like, you need to accept this. Like, we love you very much, but you have to be obedient.
You have to be an adult. Is what they
Yes.
say too.
So March is like, I can't do it, and runs off. And she ends up coming across the body of Fushi, who recently dead. And she comes into contact and sees it, freaks out. And he pretty much rebuilds himself in front of her.
Yeah. Because he's very decayed at this point.
Yeah. Pretty gross. And she pretty readily accepts it. I mean, it's friendlier. He doesn't exactly talk ever. I mean, the other people were going to sacrifice her. I guess this is the,
Yeah.
closest thing I have to a friend right now. And she's pretty much, she goes, oh, are you hungry? And they end up bonding over March going up and grabbing fruit and throwing it down to Fushi.
Well, see, at first it was like, okay, here you go. Here's a fruit.
And here's mine.
Yep.
And he's like, no.
I'm eating that. It's like, hey, let me eat this fruit.
I mean, he doesn't say anything, but yeah, he's slapping out her hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was comedic.
Yeah, that was really funny.
I love it. She's like, no, these are for me. And she's like stuffing her like clothing with them and just slap. And they all go flying. Just little kid style, like about to cry. But that doesn't affect Fushi. So she climbs up into the tree and, is kind of sobbing a little bit, eating her fruit, but then feels bad because he's looking up. So she throws the fruit to him. Yeah, they become friends via fruit.
Yep.
Best way.
Which is kind of also funny because, like, the boy from the first part of the story, he, like, when he was, like, talking about paradise, he was like, yeah, there's supposed to be, like, fruit there and stuff. I've never had fruit before.
He also says, I've never had I've had vegetables, but I sure don't remember it.
Yeah. He even describes sweet as in, I don't know what that's like. My grandfather tried to tell me. Nope. Don't understand.
His uncle told him about it once, but it didn't really make any sense. So Fushi is getting to experience that.
Yeah.
And I think it's implied in some ways that Fushi is, based on what the boy said to him, hasn't been able to try this stuff, really wants to experience new things and see stuff. I think that's sort of why Fushi sets out in some ways, like to experience those things on his behalf.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I think it's implied. I don't think it's said a ton.
No.
I mean, like I said, Fushi doesn't talk really, so we kind of have to infer.
Yeah.
So yeah, March gets to meet Fushi there, but the guards come back and are able to take her away, and they get to the ritual place and tie her down for the ritual. Perona shows up again to untie her, but then the bear appears. And yeah, the guards and Hayes, those outsiders, are pretty much like, well, we were going to stop her from trying to untie March as the sacrifice. But the bear will take care of both of them, and we'll have two sacrifices, and that's pretty cool. They're like going to leave. Fushi shows up and takes down the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we learn that he can change between the different forms that he's, gotten. Like, so because he was the boy, but now he's the wolf again.
So at that point, it seems as if he's killed the bear, but we find out later that the bear is just pretty, not mortally wounded, but it's pretty wounded to the point of incapacitation.
Well, it had like a bunch of arrows in its back.
Yeah, already it seemed. I mean, that's why it's really big for a bear. To be fair.
Yeah.
That's also why I was like, they keep calling it the spirit bear. Is it actually like a magical bear? Even though it seems to be just a pretty normal bear with a ton of wounds. Aged, like ancient bear. But being able to witness the battle between Fushi and the like giant bear, Hayes and the other outsiders are like, okay, well, we're not going to sacrifice you guys anymore, but we're going to take you all back to Yanome to like just figure out what's going on because this is really weird.
Well, they don't want to have the reputation of failing to sacrifice to the spirit bear, so they're like, all right, well, we'll let you go.
We'll fake your death.
Yeah, but you can't go back.
Yeah, because they also, they couldn't even say that the spirit bear was dead because it is like a deity to that village.
True.
Right. Okay. Okay. I understand what she meant. And then, because later I think in volume 2, she's like, they're not going to believe when you say God's dead. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I mean, yeah, it's not a god if you can kill it, right?
Right.
So they're taken back to Yanome, which is very city-like, feudal city, Japan, pretty much.
You can find everything here.
I like the little letter stand where March is trying to write a letter back home. It's like, this isn't how you write stuff back home. Like, we don't really have that much.
Yeah.
Because we're just villagers. So your parents aren't going to be able to read this letter. Also, where do we send it? And it's like, holds up a map and there's like 40 different villages. It's like, I don't know where I'm from.
And what made me chuckle was that she was like, put her hand on the piece of paper and she's like, this says March is fine.
She's like, fine, yeah, I'll do it, write it my own way. Just, child handprint. This explains everything.
Now, granted, I feel like that would say March is fine.
I mean, how do you know it's from your kid? You just
That's
receive a
also
handprint.
fair.
Yeah.
Ghost letter.
They had a fingerprint analysis. The curves.
Or maybe just one of those like plaster molds.
Aw. I don't know. You don't got time for that in the village.
No, you don't.
They're pretty much kept locked up, though, in the city afterwards. Prisoners.
So that was confusing to me because I read volume 1 on Comixology, and then I read it on the website, and it felt like there was a few pages missing between the end of volume 1, or maybe not volume 1, but first issue, volume 2, to where they were locked up. I don't know how they got locked up.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that way at first, but I think that, it's just, it was kind of like a weird, skip, just because, they were kind of having fun in the city a little bit, and then it was all like, well, you're still prisoners, though, so time to go. So yeah, I noticed that, but I think it was the effect wasn't intentional, but there was nothing missing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't remember that being too apparent to me.
How they got there?
Yeah, I don't remember being too confused by it, but I also don't remember anything super important happening there. I think it was really along the lines of well, that's enough fun.
Okay.
We've arrived, because they're going through the city to her place, Hayase's place. So yeah, she keeps them locked up as prisoners, and they show off Fushi's immortality. And I think at that point, it's pretty much said that Fushi could technically, whenever he experiences something, comes in contact with it, he could technically become it, but he chooses not to. Such as, he gets stabbed by a spear, and then the arrow and stuff.
Gotcha.
And he chooses not to because he would lose consciousness. He would lose all the stuff that comes along with that.
Yeah, okay. I remember that part, and that it made sense in the moment too, but it makes more sense now about the arrow and stuff like that. Because I thought it was just talking in general, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
So, can you explain that again? He could turn into anything he could come into contact with, but
he chooses not to because he would lose consciousness. He could become just a sword, but he would, lose feeling and all that other stuff.
And then it would be a lot harder to become something.
There probably would be almost a loss of motivation because you're just an object then. You don't desire anything. So would he desire to become a human again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would lose having a conscience.
Yeah, even
a
thinking,
soul.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even when they say back when he was just a rock and he became, I can't remember what he became.
Moss.
No, well, he grew moss, but it was just an imitation of other rocks, I think. At some point, I think it was even before he becomes the wolf, he becomes something living briefly.
Not
Okay.
sure.
Maybe it's when he becomes the wolf they talk about where he suddenly has consciousness, and suddenly has more feeling.
Yeah, I think that
Gotcha.
was when he became the wolf.
Yeah, I mean, feeling pain. Oh God, where he's mimicking the person he stabbed. It hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he just keeps saying it even when he's not being stabbed.
Yeah. Yeah, I read as I was reading that, I was like, no one seems to like, I don't know. I recognize he's just saying that as like, that's the only words I know. It hurts. And then no one's like, what hurts?
I mean, I'd probably find it off-putting because it's probably just enough, like, it's mimicking, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not relevant to, like, as I said, he's, like, not even hurt at the time. He's just sitting there. He's like, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ooh.
Actually, and then the times that they do acknowledge that the wolf is saying it hurts, like, is that the time where, okay, maybe it would hurt?
I mean, you know, he's a creature. At this, well, he's not even human to them. So I don't think they're going to acknowledge much of anything he says. I mean, he learns to say thank you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In response to getting food.
Also, it sounds like the wolf said thank you. And also not creeped out by that at all? Like
yeah,
a wolf
no.
talked?
Well, I mean, I think it's probably, you know, a wolf literally saying thank you. It's probably its vocal cords aren't too good at that. So it probably sounds like all those YouTube videos where you see the dog saying, I love you. Where you're like, that's a weird trick, but cool, I guess.
I am not aware of this.
Oh yeah, it's like just like a little like barking, you know, but you can train your dog to like kind of like, you know, basically like howl bark in a certain way.
They'll say phrases and stuff like,
Yeah.
"Roar, roar, roar," and like they'll say something.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They'll sound like words. Now, whether they know that or not is another thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they should be a little bit more creeped out by this immortal being, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so after he gets hit by the spear by the one prisoner they set against him, he is able to make a spear. I think make himself into a spear. It's like being a person plus a spear, kind of. Because at the one point they set the old lady who was pretending to be the like shaman previously. She's a prisoner, and they just use her to be a fake shaman for the villagers. They set her against him. I really like that old lady.
She's just like, look, I know you're immortal, but come on.
I gotta try. And he's like, well, if you have a spear, I have a spear. Scary.
Yep. Because the deal with her being a prisoner is that they said, if you can kill him, then you're free. Free to go.
Yeah. Can you imagine being set to that task? It's like, well, he's immortal, but if you can kill him.
I mean, it's essentially a suicide mission.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, you can if like you have the right skills to like at least like, you know, mortally harm him, you know, it's like you get to see like the like Wolverine like experiments, like, you know, like if you separate it, like which one grows back.
Gotta be bloody.
Yeah.
So, Perona is trying to, the older girl who's with them, still alive, she's trying to figure out an escape plan, and so she's memorizing like the prison layout, and she's figuring out if she can wear the guard's outfit, you know, the face is obscured, so she could reasonably like trick them into leaving and thinking there's a guard there, and they don't usually check out the cell, they just walk past. Which, I mean, the moment you talk, isn't it like, hey, that's you? Because she's like, yeah, I'll just go up to him and be like, you know, I'm here to relieve you of your duty. It's like, you're a girl. You're a teenage girl. You're not a guard.
I can sound like a man.
What are you talking about? So she's trying to figure that out, and they have, March is still there with Fushi, and Fushi, you know, is kind of bonded with her. They hang out.
They're in prison together.
They're in prison together, but he also seems to be calmed by, you know, her presence and likes being around her. And he, you know, as a wolf, digs his way out best prison ever. Just digs his way out to another part of the prison, and they end up coming across the bear. And the bear, is. This is the point where you realize, the bear isn't dead. There, and they come across March and Fushi there, the guards, and Hayase. They're like, oh well, you could take care of the bear then. Just take the arrows out of it and heal it using these like salves. And I think March is the one who's pretty much like, this isn't a spirit bear. This is just a bear with arrows in it.
Yeah,
It's just
because
a
like
big-
one of the things that made it seem so magical was like it's like they were like it has spikes in its back,
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I guess I just did assume also as the reader. I was like, yeah, bear with spikes. Maybe that's just naturally occurring here.
Yeah.
A bear
But-
dinosaur. A bearosaur.
So part of Perona's escape plan is that she's going to find wherever the spirit bear is being kept. She's going to kill it and take its head back to the village with her and March, so that they can, convince the villagers to stop having these sacrifices, because the bear's dead, and it was never necessary in the first place because it's a bear,
Yeah.
not a god to her. The problem, of course, being, March, first of all, like what Perona finally is able to start this plan. March is like, no, we can't kill it. Like, Perona's trying to convince her that, the bear will die so that others can live, so we don't have to continue this ritual, because she has in her past, her older sister convinced her to hide in the forest for a little bit, as a game.
Okay. Yeah, that was confusing because I wasn't sure what was going on there. Like, it seemed like separate from the regular story, but
Yeah, flashback.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little, with some of the character designs, it's not easy to tell, 'cause they kind of do have same face.
Gotcha. So, with that, like, flashback, that was Perona and her older sister?
Yes, well, it's her sibling, I don't know, older or younger, probably older, convinces her, yeah, you should just hide in the forest for a little bit, here's some berries and stuff, and you don't come out until I tell you.
Okay.
And by the time she comes out, her parents are like, where were you? We were looking for you everywhere. And she's like, well, where's my sister? And it's like, that's who got sacrificed to the spirit, bear spirit. Otherwise, she would have been
Yeah.
also up for possibility.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. I didn't understand that part either, so okay, that makes a lot more sense.
That also makes sense with at the beginning of the March story. March is playing with Perona, and Perona is like, we should go play in the forest for a little bit. And that's like right before the ritual is going to be, chosen.
Gotcha.
And Hayase, that's Hayase's introduction, because she pretty much steps in front of him and is like, where are you going? Like, not
Gotcha.
allowed to go. Throwback.
Yep.
So yeah, Perona has some pretty strong feelings about this ritual and who it's taken from her.
Right.
So March convinces her, though, we can go back. We don't have to kill the bear. Like, Perona's trying to say the bear's going to die anyway and so forth. But they decide to just go back without it. Like, March convinces her we don't need to kill it. Like, it's mean, I guess.
Right.
Allowing child logic.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's even like, why would, we sacrifice the bear to stop sacrificing, Like,
Is that what they say?
I'm not sure if it's directly said, but I think that's kind of what March feels, at least.
Like, there should be no life sacrifice
Yeah.
at all. Yeah, probably. They're able to escape to a certain extent, also with the help of the old lady, which has a very similar name.
Yeah.
Pio ran instead of Perona.
Yeah.
Pio ran, the old lady. I'll just refer to her as the old lady. I love it. Yeah, the old lady goes, it hurts, just to distract the guards for a moment while Perona helps March and Fushi escape. And they're escaping through the, in a wagon? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're escaping in a wagon and pretty quickly are found out. And so Hayase and the guards are chasing after them on horses. And they're shooting arrows, and Perona is trying to return fire. But March gets in the way and gets shot.
Yeah. I think she's the... Well, I guess I'll ask you guys, did you feel like at that part that was like a conscious decision, or like she just got in the way?
I think it was a conscious decision.
Okay, yeah, because I felt like she was shielding Perona too.
Yeah. Yeah, so March gets shot with one of the arrows. I thought she's going to pull through.
Yeah, me too.
She does not pull through. She's... Okay, so that's an interesting thing we didn't talk about before. Even when the boy dies originally, the boy from the beginning that Fushi meets, you see him pretty much see all of his family again.
Mm-hmm.
There's...
Yeah.
Whether it's the real afterlife or not, is unclear. But also, so March gets that where she's imagining herself back at the village as an adult.
Yeah.
With her little children, her little dolls as children. But she dies. And Fushi had turned into the bear to attack the people chasing them, and Perona is pretty much like, you don't have to protect March anymore. She's gone. You don't have to be the bear anymore. And they've pretty mortally wounded quite a few of the guards, and Hayase has been, she's like, I think half her face like ripped off, sort of.
Oh, whoa, I didn't realize
she's pretty badly scarred afterwards, you see. Yeah, she looks pretty bad at the one part. She's just sort of making gurgling noises.
Oh gosh.
But she's not dead. Which...
Right, yep.
Pretty mad, just a little bit of a eternal life revenge feeling.
That's how you get a mortal enemy.
Yes. Those are the best.
A nemesis, even.
So... Okay. Having a little bit of trouble here. Because they get back to the village. Oh. Okay. Perona is like, there's no point to this even. I'm going to just kill myself. And Fushi stops her on behalf of March. From doing that.
That's right. Because March, she does have that afterlife moment, but then she's all like, something's like wrong. Like, this isn't right. It doesn't make sense. And then so she like kind of comes back as a ghost. And she's like trying to like, stop Perona and stuff, and like be like, I'm right here, you guys, can't you see me? And only Fushi has any awareness to her, even though like it's not like he can like directly like interact with her. He like, understands what she's saying to an extent, the feeling, like stops Perona.
Yeah, it stops Perona from stabbing herself. So they're able to get back to the village and deliver the message from March that she's doing just great, the little handprint. And her parents feel really bad. They're like a lot of regrets about letting her go off to be sacrificed. And Fushi heads off with the old lady.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because Perona is all like, there's nothing for you here. You should just go. And then so Fushi finds the old lady, and at first he's in the form of March, and so the old lady's all like, where have you been? Where'd you guys go? Like,
You can't leave me alone.
Yeah, and then I'm like, why aren't you saying anything? And I was like, oh, yeah, that thing.
Yeah. I
then
do like them traveling together.
Yeah. It was kind of nice, you know. She was like, I'm just going to teach you about a bunch of stuff, I guess. So, like, that's the sun, that's fish, that's like.
Yeah, teaching him words about
Yeah.
stuff
Mhm.
and how to express himself. So he's able to slightly recount stuff, very broken wording,
Yeah.
sentences. But he's finally able to communicate. And I would say, I'm trying to figure out if I missed anything there before they encounter the other creature.
I don't think so. Yeah, basically, I mean, the old woman is like, we're gonna go meet my friend that like kind of knows some stuff about like magic stuff, I guess.
We'll see what that means.
Yeah. But other than that, that's just like the only thing that happens. They go to the market and we see Fushi's progression, and then they meet that being. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they meet a creature that it pretty much stabs Fushi and is able to extract memories / essence of his different forms. So he isn't able to, if he was in that form when it stabbed him, it's able to take that from him. So he's unable to transform into that form, and he loses the memories of them too, which is what particularly upsets him because he wants to remember them. And is he told? I think he's told at this point by, God? Quotation marks.
I just thought that was a hooded figure that was there, but actually you're right, because then the old woman is all like, that was weird, but so yeah, okay, maybe that's in quotes God.
Well,
I don't know.
okay, so Fushi was a ball that was nothing. It was just kind of an orb that could become things, and it was said to be created by someone. Is it said specifically that's created by God?
I don't know.
Not to my recollection.
I think along the lines of created by a divine being. So in this moment, Fushi's being attacked by this monster, and it's taking his different forms. So he's kind of losing, count of his different forms. But he has the bear, the wolf, the boy, and March. And it's taken like 3 of them down to the point where he's just left with March, and to try to hit the heart of the creature and get all these forms back.
Yeah.
And so, run around as March with the little arrow. It's cute.
Yeah.
And is finally at the very last moment able to get those forms back and kill the creature below. So the hooded figure tells Fushi that I created you. So that's why I was under the impression, is this God?
Okay. I kind of missed that part, but yeah, you're probably right. Whether it's like, God or something. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, my mind was all like, maybe that's like the person that they were going to meet, but no, you're probably right.
I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
at least at the very least, it's who created Fushi
Yeah.
in the beginning. And was able to direct him on how to destroy the creature. And it's like, I think he says along the lines that Fushi was, I created you to record everything in the world, and this creature is trying to stop us. So, and that's where it ends, the second volume.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I definitely misunderstood some parts of that last part, but that's all right. Yeah, good summary.
Very thorough summary.
Yeah, no, I think that like some books need a little bit more thorough of a summary. Yeah, so I guess going on to what we liked about this book. Yeah, and I guess I'll even go into just like, on that note of like, needing a thorough summary. Like it was like very, there's a lot of like story condensed, into those 2 volumes. Like, a lot happened, and it was really interesting.
It was, like, I think I said this previously, it was easy to read, to get through, despite, like you're saying, most things were very plot important in the end. I mean, like, even if they didn't seem like it, like, everything was essential to the story. So there was still quite a bit going on.
Yeah.
Even though it was relatively easy to read.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and I liked March.
Yeah, I didn't think I would like March at first. I don't super love little kid characters always, because they're dumb, they're being dumb, they don't understand things. But I think, I mean, you can't just have a story with just Fushi.
Yeah.
'Cause he doesn't care, really,
Yeah.
until he does.
Right.
Until you teach him.
Right. Yeah, and I think that a lot of the character work in this book was really strong. Like, the writing for everybody. Like, even, like, at first the old woman is just like, the old woman, she's part of Perona's plan, that's it. But then it's like, oh, now she has a name, and now she has a personality, and, she's important now. It's like, it's so interesting how, like, a side character that's, like, pretty much just flat and unimportant can immediately flip to importance.
Yeah, because she's used as a fake shaman. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of little comedic beats, which I think work pretty well. There's the part where March is like, why did you choose me, to the old lady? And she's like, March is upset. She's like, why did you have to choose me of all the kids to, like, be sacrificed? She's like, well, you're the prettiest. And March is like, oh, you.
Yeah. It's funny.
So the little character moments like that, I think, are the strongest. Even though I did say, most stuff is important to the plot. Like, technically, you don't have to do that, but it just wouldn't be as impactful. Like, they wouldn't feel as much like characters, like, without the fruit part.
Yeah.
Or the old lady teaching Fushi how to eat properly. Oh, yeah. Was it March in the city capital? Oh, okay. I just literally remember the part we were discussing where we were like, I don't know what happened there. They got knocked out.
Yeah.
The food. They're eating the food.
See, what was weird about that is that they only show Fushi getting knocked out.
No.
But then they like have a black panel.
No.
No?
Everybody else gets knocked out first, and then Fushi's the last one to get knocked out. So you probably kind of missed the single panel where they all just dunked their heads in their soup.
Gotcha.
Wow. Yeah, my brain completely just threw that out because I was like, I don't understand what's going on.
It was a little weird because Hayase is pretty much like morning glory always works, and one flower or something as a sleeping agent.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I thought it wasn't going to work on Fushi, and they'd just be like, well, we have to take him in, I guess. But Fushi at the very end is like, too.
Gotcha.
Gosh. Okay, that actually enhances, obviously, like, not having a piece of the story missing, but like also like, that's now that I'm thinking about that part, I enjoy it also.
It is almost comedic how it's
Yeah.
done, definitely. It's interesting how it's able to be comedic and then also have like slight sad moments. Slight sad. It's pretty sad. I think I really enjoy the fact that despite the fact that we've come to the conclusion that it's probably not really a fantasy world so much as like magic and monsters. It's pretty regular world, but it's very interesting. Like, I don't know if there's a ton of world building, but there's enough where it feels grounded in something.
Yeah, there's definitely like a little bit of a question about like, history. Because like when I started, with the boy in his village, I was all like, okay, this is like kind of like a rebuilding after the apocalypse, I was all like, they're like basically their village got big enough that it was like, okay, maybe we can go out and try to find some other pockets of humanity. Like, okay, maybe not. I don't know. I have no idea anymore, but I am interested about like, you know.
All their little food comes in cubes sometimes.
Yeah.
She really likes those cubes.
It's interesting. There's definitely an interest in world building, I feel like, even if it's not like, you know, like Delicious in Dungeon, where it's like lots of world building.
Need more world building. I don't know if they could squeeze in any more than they've already squeezed in.
Yeah, for sure not in the 2 volumes, but maybe like, yeah, as the story continues. I think that it's like the pacing, as we've kind of mentioned, is really good. So, you know, like, and that includes how much is revealed about the world.
I think they're able to fit in fairly organically the little character quirks like we were talking about. Like, we didn't even mention March's, you know, despite the fact that her character is pretty centered around, singular facts, like the fact that she wants to be a mother, and, you know, she's a little kid who plays dress up or house with her dolls. And most stuff stems from that because she's a little kid. There's not a ton developed there in the brain. So, like, one of her traits they have is she's always making, like, these little fake food out of, like, dirt and stuff. It looks like little meatballs or something. And she's like, here you go, here's your food. And was it Perona, the older girl, is always like, yum, pretending to eat it. And so at the very end there, March is like, you know, I made this special food as like a, you know, a thank you for helping us escape. And, you know, Perona, as March is dying, is like, yum, thank you. Like she always did, trying to make her happy by pretending.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's all centered around that singular thing. You know, March wants to be a parent. She wants to grow up and be an adult, do real housework. But it still feels organic, feels like part of a character. And oh yeah, Perona at the very end there, shooting the arrow and missing, but she hits the hand of Hayase. So that's the part where you see that Hayase is just scarred on the one side.
I'm gonna have to go back to that panel because I want to see the image.
She's pretty messed up before that. Like, that's obviously looks like a little bit healed. I was gonna say that means that Perona like got better at shooting, but no, she missed again.
Yeah,
she was trying to hit her in the face.
Yeah, that was like also like kind of like even emotionally complex moment because it was like almost a little funny and like a little sad. Like whereas like the guy is like, yeah, you hit, and then she's like, no, I missed. Like.
I mean, yeah, there's not a ton to Perona, honestly, but it's done in such a way where it feels like it could be expanded on easily. Like, it doesn't feel like they're forgetting to give her personality. It's just not super important to the moment. You know, what she is very simple. Because, I mean, she's not the main character, and it's going to move on from her. Like, maybe they'll go back, though. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I could definitely see her coming back, you know?
I mean, if they're going to have Hayase and the people from, Yanome, then they might have Perona also come back. That's also, so despite the fact that I did say that it felt like there wasn't a ton of world building, we did kind of skip over some of the world building there is, where the whole reason that they're pretending, Yanome doesn't care about the spiritual beliefs of these villages in the Holy Land, but they want to conquer them and, you know, probably essentially absorb them into their own group. So because of that, they are they're pretending that they care about their spiritual beliefs, and so they are helping them do these sacrifices. They bring in the fake shaman, and they pick out some kid from the group and just take it up and do the ritual. And by doing that, you know, the villagers are like, oh, you know, you care, you help us, we trust you. So they're trying to gain their trust. It's a very sneaky and, you know, conniving way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there, which I'm sure will get expanded upon.
Right.
You can definitely feel that at least.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be interesting. Huh. Yeah, I'm just kind of imagining now, like, you know, like, yeah, more of the world, you know, and I want to know, like, yeah, like, because just like if there are other places too, like, you know, because it was like, there's the village that is dead, that's like on the other side of the mountain. But I wonder if there's like other people, other places too.
Yeah, how close is everything together?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they say that Fushi died 7 times to get between like the abandoned village and this area. I mean,
And wasn't it like he died from not eating?
I mean, it says that he doesn't have to like use the bathroom. I don't think he can use the bathroom technically. So does he even technically need to eat?
Well, it's like he doesn't, but the body.
Does.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so he's just not taking care of the body then.
Yeah. But that's fine because when he dies, he can just regenerate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, how long can a body go if the person using it doesn't care about it?
Well,
That's why I
you can
think
survive 30 days without food and only 3 days without water, I think. I think it's the general.
So if he wasn't drinking anything,
Yeah.
minimum that
21 days.
21 days. Yeah.
I mean, you can go pretty far.
Mm.
That's why I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit farther than just over the mountain.
Yeah.
Although mountains are not easy to scale,
True.
to be fair.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder, like, you know, did he, as a kind of like with wolf reasoning, you know, did he go like?
Oh yeah,
over?
zigzagging, just going in circles.
Right.
Like, was it time well spent? I
Did
don't know.
Did he reach the summit and then come down?
That's the thing, right? Like, he probably doesn't care about, like, am I going in the right direction? It is the direction I am going in.
Yeah.
So he probably was just beelining it to whichever way as he could. And just would, like, lay there after he's dead. Yeah. So we've got back into it again and, like, talking about different stuff.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story for sure. I was not expecting this with like the immortal kind of story. I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think it's the only way. It is probably kind of the only way you can do an immortal story with a character who doesn't really care. Like you're going to have to encounter more people who are human. Yeah, more people that he learns to care about.
Yeah. I guess I wonder, what are you thinking, like, kind of in comparison to?
But what do you mean?
Like, well, you said that you, like, if you're going to do an immortal story, like, what other immortal stories are you thinking of?
There's so many. It's hard to say exactly which ones.
Yeah, because I kind of know what you mean. I'm just like...
Well, it's not necessarily immortal. It's the part about because there's a lot of stories where people are normal or they're just a person and then they become immortal and then they have to deal with how they reacted to things as a human, as a normal human. But now they're immortal. So like there's like less consequences, but there's almost more consequences.
Yeah, that's making me think of actually, we read it like a year ago. The manga where there's immortal people. It's like 3% of the
Ajin.
Yeah, Ajin.
Yes.
There we go.
But yeah, that's what I mean. There's a ton of those stories.
Yeah.
This one would fall less under. It's less important to the immortal part and more important the just not being able to relate to mortal experiences. So it's more along the lines of like gods and stuff, deities, divine beings, forced to live among mortals. And how do they react to that? And how do they affect those around them?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Also, I just remembered this. I didn't remember before that when I like the very first like page or so before he'd even become a rock, I almost thought that you were having us read that one from the Death Note creator. I was like,
No, I would never do that to you.
I am unaware of what.
I went on a rant about it. We do not have to relive that here. Don't read the new thing from the Death Note creator. I can't remember its name now. It's like Platinum Angel or something.
Yeah,
Vaguely
something
recalling that.
Yeah.
So dumb. I want to spoil right now the ending for everybody, but I shouldn't. So dumb. Don't read it. You are in for like Reddit style. Why are we alive? What was it like? The one thing was like Santa Claus. It's like how Santa Claus isn't real. That's how God is. It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
If you're into that, go ahead and read it.
I guess, yeah. Maybe you like inane debates that make no sense. Now remember, when things have happened, they're in the past. It's like, oh, when things that have happened already. And he's like, yes, they're in the past. It's like, why am I here?
Nope.
Anyway, maybe read this one. This one's... I do think it is very easy to fall into the problem of, I'm immortal character. Everybody's mortal around me, and they're just constantly dying. Crazy. Sad. Shed a tear for them. On to the next person. So, that's a tiny bit of the worry I have here because, I already lost 2 people. But, it seems to be good at self-contained. The boy kind of does have his arc. He realizes that, he wasn't abandoned. That's kind of the sad part, though, isn't it? Like, I wasn't abandoned, technically. They couldn't come back for me. But I kind of was abandoned, not by intention. He has that arc. It starts out, he wants to, be where his family is, where everybody else is. And he finds out that's death, and he's unable to choose anything else. He dies. And then with March, I guess she does an adult thing, sacrificing herself for others. Where in the beginning it is sort of she chooses not to sacrifice herself for the village because she's childish. Quotation marks, because not really.
Yeah, and it's like, I think that it's important to point out that, like, if she would have, like, just let herself be sacrificed at the beginning, that would have been for, like, a no purpose, But this is, like, she gets to, it's not about obedience, which, like, her parents says.
Needless obedience, just blind obedience.
It's because she cares and wants to protect Perona.
And I think part of her arc included being a parent or being a mother in a very, like, that small way of, taking care of Fushi and the bear.
Yeah, that's true. When she first meets Fushi, she goes, "Oh, I'll be your mother." And she does kind of try to teach him about stuff, and it does affect him. Like, he does learn things from her. So it's nice to be able to reflect on that and be able to see clearly, but it's not so simple where it's, like, very obvious that you are just being led through a character arc.
Yeah. Man, actually, that, like, it's another layer of appreciation for this story now that I'm, like, now that we've discussed it a little bit, I'm like, wow, like, the author here is, like, really making a comment about, like, what sacrifice really means. It's not just, like, something, like, that might be for the greater good, but it's about, like, what you like really care about.
Well,
know?
if you don't believe in it, you probably shouldn't sacrifice yourself for it.
Right.
Like, sacrifice yourself for what you believe in. Yeah, having faith in certain things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's probably other things that I liked in this book, you
For
know?
sure.
But nothing's like really coming to mind, you know? Like, I mean, I already said like the character work and stuff like that. And we've like talked about the arcs and stuff like that. So yeah, if there's anything else that you guys wanted to mention, but then we can get on to the stuff that we didn't like as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I have is just that I don't know if for me this comic or manga, will be memorable. I'd say that's the biggest thing that I have against it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's like so easy to read that it's almost like too easy to read, you know, where like we're like, and then something happens.
Yeah.
It's like all of it, once we're able to recall, we're like, yeah, that's plot relevant. But yeah, I don't know if the important parts, it's hard to pinpoint exactly how I feel about certain parts of it. In that regard, where, like I said, it's almost too easy to read.
Yeah. And it's like I think that I understand what's going on, or maybe I don't understand what's going on, you know, and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna keep scrolling, you know, through the pages, keep going, and then I'm like, oh, I didn't actually catch that. Oh, I didn't actually catch that. Oh, I didn't actually catch that. Which, I mean, like, maybe you could spin that into a good thing. It has, like, good rereadability, you know? Like,
Catch more stuff. Like what happened in that scene.
Yeah. But, yeah, also it can be a little bit confusing with, like, how fast-paced it is. Yeah, and then also... nope, I forgot what I was going to say.
So, just want to make sure I understand. You said it's confusing with how fast-paced it is?
Sometimes, yeah. Like, you know,
Gotcha.
there's just parts where it was like, oh, I didn't realize that was happening. I didn't realize that, you know, they fell asleep in their Super Bowls. I didn't realize that that there was the flashback with Perona and her older sister. You know? I just said, that's a weird, like, part of the story.
Guess that happened. Like, you just keep going.
I guess, like, a question I have is, for that flashback, why do you think they, like, went with, I guess you could say artwork, but, like it looked like pictures that are scratched out, you know? Like, someone scratched out somebody's face.
I mean, that's sort of the thing where she's like, I can't even remember her face anymore. Yeah. I mean, so going back to the whole thing, I don't think we really talked about it, but the entire theme of the work is like remembering, right? So, you know, it's very upsetting to her that she, you know, her sister sacrificed herself for her and she can't even remember her face.
Yeah.
It's like me in my past.
Well, let's not get into your dark past now, Taylon.
You know what? That's an inside joke that I realize now only I would get.
Those are the best. You know who's gonna love this joke? Me. So yeah, the two things like remembrance and sacrifice seem to be there, which doesn't feel like two separate things. They feel very closely tied together in some ways. I think Fushi as a character, I think he's kind of falling into that thing you're saying where it's like almost not memorable. I don't know. I kind of just wish it probably is something that would be solved by reading more of it, but it's that thing of like, I wish I knew more of how he felt or how he's thinking. he just sort of does things, and then I'm like, oh, it seems like he cared there, I think. Question mark.
Well, and honestly, like, I don't find that kind of like, there's an explanation as to why he's like that, and so like I understand why, you know.
But I mean, as a character, does he compel you to read more? Is the thing, which I'm like, even if there's an explanation why I don't understand him, it makes it a little bit harder to bond. I feel like they could have created a little bit of a stronger character with how he affects the people around him, because like you said, in some ways it feels like they kind of gloss over some of the stuff, like him talking or how he interacts with them. It feels like it's a little too easy for them to be like, anyway, plot is happening, Fushi's doing something. Like, oh, isn't that crazy? He's eating with his hands. Anyway, like, he's the main character. Yeah. Just for them to interact with him more and be like, oh my gosh, you talked. Where did you learn that? And, like, trying to communicate with him. It feels like there's a little bit of that lost. Which is, I think, why I appreciate, like, the parts with, like, him and March. Because she doesn't have anything to, like, else to talk about. She's talking to him directly, or him and the old lady, where the old lady is telling him about stuff and he is able to communicate back. It just doesn't seem like other parts of the story they try as hard with that, unless he's one-on-one with somebody. And I mean, he is the main character, but he is sort of a vessel for getting us through the story, which seems to be other people's stories so far. So, I don't know. I'm not a super big fan of those kind of things. I like character-driven ones. So if he's going to be a character in this, I want him to have more of an impact, I guess.
Right. Not a fan of character-driven as in if it's not a good character.
No, I sorry. Did I say that? I meant I am a fan of character-driven.
Oh, okay.
And in this case, it's less character-driven. It's more, I don't know, setting, plot. I don't know.
It's like, I mean, he's kind of like I guess
in some ways, it's more about the narrative.
Yeah.
Which, like we said, the narrative is pretty strong. There's a character arc for these characters. But the narrative ends, and in some ways, the character ends too.
Yeah, it's plot focused in a way. Because, like, the character is a plot device, or it starts out as one kind of.
So would you say, like, I don't know, would you consider a distinction between plot-driven and, I guess, this new term, narrative-driven?
Or character-driven, yeah.
Well, that's the problem. I don't think it's necessarily plot-driven.
Right. Well, so I'm talking about, like, it being narrative-driven as opposed to describing it as plot-driven. Like, the difference between those.
I don't think there is much of one. Narrative, I mean, is story, and plot is more along the lines of the conflict of it. Could get into semantics here. Yeah. I don't think.
Well, I guess to me, when I think of like narrative driven, like this story seems more like here's like a theme that we're going by. Theme focused might be the.
It's a little bit more. I'm thinking more along the lines of like Aesop's fables, like there's a farmer and his sheep, and this thing happens, and from this we learn this, which might be sort of what you're saying along those lines of like not necessarily moral, but there's an overall thing. Yeah, maybe that is theme. Yeah. Where in the end, like you're saying, the characters are more of pawns. They are acting out their roles in a larger thing. Yeah, because in some ways there's less distinction. They are not. I don't know. It's hard. So I got this from the fact that somebody was saying that a silent voice is more character driven, as compared to this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the whole conflict in A Silent Voice is kind of characters. You know?
Right.
So the setting itself
Yeah.
doesn't affect it as much.
I mean, yeah, I think that like both you and Talon were like onto something a little bit, like thinking about it like thematically and like, you know, like with a message, because like, I mean, granted, like most stories have some sort of message, but I think that both this and A Silent Voice both have like kind of like it is the author trying to like really express a specific viewpoint, I feel like, about certain things, more so than sometimes it's all like, oh, I just want to tell this story, and like, you know, then the reader, you know, kind of, you know, gets to figure out, and, you know, usually the readership, you know, comes up to the same conclusion more or less, but like this seems like maybe a little bit more purposeful in meaning.
That's the funny thing, though. I'm like, you got to be purposeful, and you got to have, like, there's got to be something in the middle of your story that you can grab a hold on and be like, oh, everything comes from there.
Yeah.
But
And
I don't
guess-
know. That's kind of why I'm like, why isn't this working perfectly for me? Why don't I like it as much as I think I would?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, because, yeah, what we're kind of hitting at is that, like, all stories, or at least, like, you know, well-constructed ones, have, you know, all of these elements. You know, they have, like, character arcs, and they have, you know, a meaning, or, you know, something that you can hold on to at its center, you know, but it's, like, it's about, like, what things get emphasized a little bit more than others.
I was thinking, we were talking about the characters are well constructed for the story that they are meant for, as we were saying. But if we took these characters out of this story, I wouldn't really care about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not that interesting outside of this specific setting, which I really like characters where you could take them out and put them in anything, and you're like, now what are they going to do?
Yeah, that makes me think of like more advice that writers give to writers who are up and coming, like trying to learn the art. Like, think of your character as a living, breathing person. Like, what kind of like think of them in certain situations, even if they're not going to be like in the story.
Right. So yeah, they're a little bit more like, I guess you could say, like, they're not flat, but they are like almost like only like one dimension.
They're pruned for the specific story they're in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, you wouldn't really see Perona in space.
So that's the thing. That's why I'm like, it's not one-dimensional, because I can imagine kind of how she'd react, but it's just a little kid thing. Like, she'd just react like a little kid. It's not that specific.
Right.
Or, sorry, you said Perona, not March.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was a
thinking
little
of March.
confused.
Yeah.
I like March a lot, but yeah, so I keep thinking of March for everything.
Gotcha.
But yeah, also with Perona, I mean, yeah, she shoots badly. She cares about little kid. She wants to show her village that this is wrong. I mean, that's it. That you don't need that much more. They're good for what they're good for their plot as a plot device.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a character themselves, they are a little flat, I guess.
I like to think of it, and like how you phrased it is, I think it was used like they are well constructed for the story that they are made for.
Yeah.
So I think of it like that.
Which is why I have trouble finding fault with them, but because I don't know if maybe this just isn't the story for me where they should have like outlandish personalities or they just stand out all there. They're like we're saying, they're good for what they're made for.
Yeah, and I wonder too, it's like, maybe we just don't even get enough time with like, you know, the characters that are human, where it's like if some of them lived a little bit longer or slash you know, Perona
Had
obviously is
screen
like,
time, yeah.
yeah, you know, because we're really splitting the, like you said, screen time for lack of a better word, you know, between like lots of different characters. But yeah, it's like, because like, you know, because we talked about those like little moments, you know, like with March, you know, being told that she was the prettiest, and the fruit scene, like, you know, those are all like, you know, we can imagine that like as like any, like the reaction of any small child, but at the same time it is specific to her too. You know, she does care about those things, and she's kind and wants to, like, you know, wants to give fruit to Fushi, but then also when he keeps like swatting it out of her hands, she gets angry.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like, so she's a little vindictive when she throws the fruit down and like tries to hit him. So yeah, there is like, you know, it's not like strong like character features, you know, but we get these little like glimpses, you know, and so I could say, or I could argue maybe that like they just don't get as much of an opportunity as other mainstay characters.
And I don't know if I want it dragged out, which is why it's hard for me to say this is something I didn't like. I guess in the end I just don't prefer vignette stories. But we don't know. Maybe the next character is just going to stick around forever. Like,
So, what do you mean by vignette?
you know, short stories that all follow a similar theme kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I'm probably using the word wrong.
Yeah. No, I mean,
So,
yeah.
so like, I guess in the more like video term, like TV show kind of thing, like it'd be a anthology. Would that be
I mean, there's
analogous?
book anthologies too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, official dictionary definition. 1, a brief evocative description, account, or episode. 2, a small illustration or portrait photograph which fades into its background without a definite border.
Well, that's what I was thinking. What a vignette is.
I'm probably trying to use the word anthology more along those lines because I was
gotcha.
thinking of stories that are vaguely related and but are about the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, to be fair, I felt like vignette also worked, you know, just in terms of like, yeah, being short and a little bit more episodic.
Yeah. I would agree more with vignette than
Okay.
anthology.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't necessarily think that if we spent more time with these characters, like, it would be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm arguing that either. Just that they would have more ability.
That would be
to
the difference.
develop, but it wouldn't necessarily be better.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think it would be dragging it out, which is why I'm not totally advocating for it. I also don't think it's really the author's style, maybe. I think she's good at this, and if she tried to, like I was saying, drag it out, you'd be like, well, they finished their character arc, and now we're going off to the restaurant. Yay. Like, what's the point? It's being accomplished.
Yeah, and it especially makes sense in this story, just like the, how do I say it? Like, basically, you know, because it's about an immortal being, like the ultimate end kind of has to be death for the other characters.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
well, not all of them have to end with death, like,
right.
but there's definitely, yeah, that probably usually people's stories end with them dying. Yeah. Well,
No, living happily ever after.
that's the thing, right? Happily ever after has to end at some point. So, and that's
Just don't
not a
write the
bad
story.
thing. That's right. Like, you
Yeah,
can
no.
die happy.
Yeah.
You can die 1 billion years from now, and you've taken care of your character arc, and now you're the perfect human being, fully fulfilled.
Yeah. It's
That's when you die.
Yeah, you either you end your character arc dying, or you become God.
I don't know why I keep thinking of like that screenshot that's like from an anime that's translated wrong. It goes, when people die, they are killed, or when people are killed, they die. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I thought you were going with you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Like, I'm so used to hearing that now.
Man, okay, that actually, like, if they're able to somehow develop Hayase more, the one lady who's like chasing after them and trying to like, she's being part of the whole manipulative scheme against the villages.
Mm-hmm.
If we get more about her, I'd find that interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
So far, she's just a revenge person
Mm-hmm.
with now an arrow in the hand,
Mm-hmm.
doing better. Things are looking up.
Remember me? You shot me in the hand.
And scratched the face.
Yep.
Is there anything else you can think of?
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, I did have one more thing that, like...
You didn't like?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of ties a little bit back to, like, the faster pacing, but sometimes, like, the action was a little bit hard for me to parse. Like...
Even the action scenes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was like, I don't understand if he's falling backwards. I mean, it's hard with Fushi because he falls apart in weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, when he was first transforming into the boy, I was very confused, even though, like, at that point, the transformation, kind of thing had been established, and I assumed that was maybe what was going to happen, but, like, it looked like maybe he was just getting near the dead body, or, like, I don't know, he was...
Oh, they have that really weird panel where he still is the head of the wolf, but he is the body of the boy, and he's, like, falling over because he's having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, it was just, like, kind of, like, that was hard for me to parse, too, until it got to the next one, and it was like, okay, now it's
I wonder if
established.
that's the visuals. I mean, it's got to be actually the visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, a little bit this is getting into the art, which is the next part, but, yeah, that was a little bit difficult to understand, and, like, there's a part where March, like, falls down, like, a ravine, like, right before she meets Fushi, and I was like, I obviously could tell she fell, but, like, how she fell and why, it was like, what's going on?
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think that goes back to the whole thing of where it's almost too easy to read, where you're like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm still able to jump to the next part and still understand, because that previous part was technically important to it, but not important enough that I'm going to go back and try to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe that other than that way.
Yeah, it's just, like, somehow it, like, because I feel like comics and, like, prose work the same way usually, wherein if you see something that you don't understand, like if you're reading prose and you come to a word you don't know, you either, like, stop and you're, like, trying to figure it out, or you keep reading and
Context clues, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but, like, you can keep reading too, but you stop processing any of the words you're reading because you don't know the word, and, like, I kind of feel like that happens too in comics, where you don't understand the image, and then you just keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? An argument of, should not understanding that panel bother you enough where you're, like, stopping and you're, like, figuring it out, then you're able to move on, because otherwise if you moved on, you'd be like, I don't get what's going on. Or should it be almost excludable, where you're like, you have it and enhances the experience of what's going on, but you're able to kind of just gloss over it otherwise.
Yeah.
Should it be a parallel circuit or a series circuit?
Oh my god. You're right, though.
I used to know what those were, but I've forgotten.
It's fine. You're using your brain for more important things now, Cody, like comics.
It's taken over 95% of my brain.
I can't wait for when that's me.
No, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, and it is, like, kind of because it's like, I guess, yeah, ideally, your comic just makes sense.
Yes. But if
Maybe
you had
you
to choose.
Maybe you should just make your drawing make sense, huh?
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
thought of that.
Don't do either. Just do that.
Yeah.
Choose the third path. Be perfect.
It's just going back to the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Just doing sacrifice.
Maybe don't kill people. I don't know.
But yeah, I think that it overall, in my opinion, it does help because, especially with the way that the chapters are written, most times if there was something, especially towards the end, where I was like, "What's going on?" By the beginning of the next chapter, it was kind of summarized a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what's going on. I get it now."
Lost my footing for a moment there.
Yeah.
Back on track.
And so I think that really helps it a little bit with some of the more confusing aspects.
Gotcha.
But that's a good segue into our thoughts on the art more generally.
So a long time ago, I was like, oh man, I don't like black and white art. I think I've read enough manga that I'm like, okay, I'm used to it now. So,
It's just an exposure thing.
Yeah,
We just
yeah.
gotta have you read more experimental art too.
I don't know, Taylon. That's being like, I hate movies. I hate color movies. Why don't they just make them black and white anymore? That's just too broad, man. Some people use black and white really well. In this case, I'm actually not a super big fan of the art, but it's mostly a personal taste thing. It's less of like we were talking about, in some cases panels are just kind of confusing. I think it's, there's a lot of detail put into stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the character expression sometimes when it's kept simple. I like that. Sometimes it's one of those things where because I'm not looking at the art right now, if I remember right, there's a lot of thin lines used for a lot of detail, but it's almost too often. I wish there's a little bit more of thicker lines mixed in. They use thicker lines a lot of times on the characters' faces, well, March particularly, to do the simplistic stuff.
Yeah.
They do thicker lines with her. I just don't like thin line weights. Throw some thicker lines in there. Get some variety in your food. Stop eating that one cheeseburger every day.
I'm very good with my staple of potatoes. Thank you very much.
Salt them differently. I don't know. Make some sweet potato. Actually, that's totally different. Anyway.
But hey, sweet potato.
They're both tubers.
Pretty good. I just the thin can't do it.
I mean, yeah, I liked the thin lines. That didn't bother me. But like you said, that was just personal preference, and that's.
Well, I think sometimes the thin, because it was only thin, I think that's sometimes where we lost the emphasis, and you were like, I don't totally understand which way the action is flowing.
Right. Yeah, and I was even thinking about that more, and I could even see maybe the ideas between the basically the scenes needed to be stretched out a little bit more too.
Yeah, maybe that is it. Less of just specific specific panel for this action, but instead of squishing it all together.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked the detail, but yeah, some things needed a little bit I don't know, simplicity, a little bit more economy with the lines,
I mean, it's that thing again, there's not enough emphasis on certain parts.
Yeah.
So everything has equal footing, which is the background sometimes didn't need to have as much.
Yeah.
Stop doing so much darn detail. Beautiful
Yeah.
detail.
I was like, man, this is pretty, but
What's going on?
yeah.
What should I be looking at? I don't know. For the most part, though, pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah. I also liked there was sometimes there was like at least one time I'm thinking of, but I'm pretty sure they did it multiple times where it was like this is especially like hard to describe audio only, but like basically it was like long skinny panel, and then the gutter was like pretty much like there was no panel, but it was like the size of those long skinny panels, and then it was like sky, like blue sky kind of. I kind of liked that.
I didn't really notice those, but that sounds nice.
Yeah.
So the gutter was like the same width as this skinny panel?
Yeah, like
It was just like a cutaway kind of thing to the sky or something.
Okay.
but it wasn't its own panel. It was part
okay.
of the
I see.
back of the page, kind of.
Gotcha. I'm with you now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, they're trying to give space to like breathe.
Mm-hmm. And what better way to breathe than to breathe and look at the sun?
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like a lot of the nature stuff was really pretty. Even the city was done nice. Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't have time to particularly pinpoint why I feel this way, but I felt like sometimes, once again, I wasn't sure where they are, and I didn't feel scene transitions that well.
Mm-hmm.
Like them walking somewhere, you don't get the best sense of like that they've arrived or that they're headed there. They're just sort of doing something, and then they're somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, this actually relates back to a few things that I've saying, and I've had this thought, and then I keep forgetting to say it. I feel like I would enjoy this a little bit more, and I looked it up. It's been adapted into an anime.
2 seasons,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
which I have not seen.
But I'm like, I feel like the action would be a little bit more fluid, and like a lot of the issues that I have with the artwork would be helped, basically.
I think it could work really well as an anime.
Yeah.
Being able to tell like something's moving and this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice.
Yeah, especially with how kinetic his healing and transformation is too.
I mean, it is depicted very well.
Yeah.
Like as far as a static image, that you feel it moving and like him healing and the arrow moving here. It's just little bones shown for a moment.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It is done well. I just it could be better.
For a static image.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it probably to fully appreciate it in the anime form would probably be pretty cool. Get your color, Tilon.
This is true.
Yeah, I didn't look at it super close, but I will say, like, the little tiny images that I saw when I Googled it, I was for the anime, I was like, I'm not sure actually if I like it the way that it was, like, colored / animated, It was, like, kind of, like, glossy almost. I don't know. I'd have to look at it again to be sure. But,
Like there's a bit of shine?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I don't know. As long as they're not using their little 3D bear images again. 3D model of the bear.
Yeah.
Which is clearly just a 3D object and like the 2D drawn characters.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but I hope so too. That I don't do that.
It's so clear when that happens. Dorehedoro.
Yeah.
Freaking, yeah, that 3D. I mean, I say that like it's a bad thing.
Definitely people who like it.
Just not the same. Just give me the 2D.
Yeah, but I might.
Tutti Frutti?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like it in color.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll say that looking at the image big, it's not as bad as I thought. But yeah, it is also kind of it loses something, but what I was thinking of isn't the problem. So.
Okay.
I mean, they're definitely trying to put a lot of detail into, like the backgrounds, like they always do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It does feel like it's almost too much information for it. I mean, these feel a little bit like fairy tales. Sort of.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I'm not sure if I totally agree, but I do find it interesting. They keep evoking like fairy tales, parables, fables. There we go.
Mhm.
It's like, what's the third one?
It doesn't feel entirely like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But there is an aspect to it that
Yeah.
feels familiar.
God, I don't know why. It just looks so like stereotypical like anime tree and then him just being like dark hooded person. It's losing something.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, now that I see that close up, like the other ones were fine to me, but that one I was like, it did lose something. That because his face was too clear, like it was like very like pristine and flat, and
I've seen some weird stuff. Not sure about those next few volumes.
oh, you're seeing weird stuff in that. Okay, I see. You're getting spoilers.
Yeah. I mean, it was already. There's a few parts where in the manga where you're like, what's going on? Why are we doing this? Like, what, Perona getting captured just before she escapes. And, like, you know, weird scene with woman that they always love to do. I have caught you, woman.
Yeah, man.
And you're like, and I was just like, page skipping, like, don't care. And she
Yeah.
beats up the guard before really escaping. But of course, her stupid clothes has to get like ripped.
Yeah, man. I
They
definitely
do more of that out.
Oh, you don't know if they do more of that, but
I don't know.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, that kind of vibe, I don't want any more of that. You're going to give me more scenes
right.
like that? It's weird. I mean, that's pretty much, I should have mentioned that in the didn't like part. But, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're still there. Wait, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
We like / about the art, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely serviceable for the most part.
It's really nice. I just don't know. Like, sometimes it is pretty, but doesn't do the job of actually telling us, you know, the story properly. So
Gotcha.
it's very nice details.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Are you interested in reading more?
50-50 kind of.
I mean, not that I would read it myself, but like if someone was like, "Hey, we should read volume 3," I'd be like, "All right."
That's what Jake always says. He's like, if you made me. Like, yeah, I guess if I made you.
Well, I mean, it's not like I'm not gonna put up a fight about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
like, all right.
it wasn't distasteful to read
Yeah, no.
for the most part. Like, it's easy to read too, which is a big plus. But is Fushi compelling enough that I want to see him interact with more people and just wander through life?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's actually I only came to this conclusion just now, so I couldn't have mentioned it earlier. But basically, the worst part, story-wise, about it is like having to introduce new characters and get to know them at the start. You know, like I felt like I was like at first I was like, okay, like when are we gonna get back to Fushi when they were like, you know, doing the stuff with March at the beginning and she hadn't met him. I was like, did this website like start giving me a different manga? Like what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes they mislabel them.
yeah, right. Like that's
I will say that was kind of like, I didn't like that. Where it was like, okay, so you introduced this story here, and then now you're doing something else over here. Like, what's going on there?
right.
I liked the stories that were shown in these 2 volumes. But I don't know if the next ones will really live up to the same feeling.
Yeah, it's like I trust personally. I trust that you know they will be good, but it's kind of hard to convince myself to like you know it is that kind of anthology-ish like you know like I
Really liked the 2 stories at the beginning. Didn't care for the middle part. Like,
Right.
don't think I'll read the ending stories, like the last 2 stories, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I will say, like, to me, I like things to like connect back together, and so I would like to see if like the tribe that the boy was in, like, did that have any relevance to like Nanana, or however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Like we've said before, like Fushi doesn't really have an overarching goal. He's seeking out stimuli. But does he want to? Like, we're kind of given a goal from his creator where it's like, we're here to record everything on Earth.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, that's not much
vague.
of a goal. Yeah.
Why?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure we'll find out later.
Right.
But I don't super care.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing is that,
Just
like...
a cloaked dude.
Yeah.
Don't like that design. I am cloaked evil man.
For me, it's like I really... Once I get to know the characters that it introduces, and they, like, you know, we get into the middle of their story, I'm, like, on board. But it is work to get to know brand new characters. And then... also, I don't really care about like Fushi and the creator yet. Like, you know,
That is the thing about manga. They tend to do, what is it, like, the joke is like battle of the week, right? Like, what is it?
Okay.
You're a high schooler, fighter, and there's a new fighter, and then you work really hard and you beat him up, and then there's an even stronger guy with like even stronger fists, and I'm gonna work even harder to beat him up. It's like,
You're talking about the Flash.
that's the thing. I said manga, but it happens over here too. It's like the episodic thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is the villain for this season. It's like,
Yeah.
But Fushi isn't tying it together strong enough for me. So yeah, I don't think I'll read more.
Yeah, I'm willing to maybe check out the anime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really interested in reading more.
Did it make you cry a bunch?
It didn't, but I was also really sleepy. Like for completely different reasons, you know. Like, not that the book was making me sleepy, but I woke up and I was like, I'm tired, and then like I read a couple pages and then passed back out.
When the boy died, I was like, yeah, this is sad. I was more sad about the fact that like everybody's dead, man. There's no hope. There is no good ending to this. There's not, well, I guess I'll just go to the McDonald's next door and find a new family. But
found family at the McDonald's.
But yeah, March is definitely, I don't know. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, that was definitely the most emotionally evocative, I'd say.
I mean, it built up enough time with her for like kind of feel more of something. But yeah, I didn't cry. I don't know. Didn't get me there.
I definitely wasn't even close. But,
Not even close. Did
Yeah,
you
no.
feel a little bit sad when the little child died?
confession time. I actually didn't get to that part.
Oh my gosh. Taylon, you gotta just say that up front.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, no.
excluded from this now.
Yeah.
Your opinion doesn't matter.
We'll edit everything
How-
you said out.
No,
How far did you get?
when they were taking care of the bear,
Okay.
taking
Yeah.
the arrows out. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty far.
Yeah.
I thought the moment you like paused for a moment, you're like, I thought you were about to be like, didn't read any of this.
No.
But I'm not reading anymore. Yeah, I don't know. 2 volumes. It got too much of the little shonen style, like fighting monster at the end to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Actually,
I guess.
because we were talking about it's not magical, but then there's that creature.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, and I think that's like, yeah, like it made me care across like the 2 volumes about like the character driven stuff, you know, and then it like kind of shifted to like, oh yeah, and there's magic stuff, and I'm like,
Magic monsters.
I don't care. I don't care about this. Like the only thing that I kind of care about is the risk of Fushi losing his connection to the humans that we've, you know, experienced.
Somebody needs to remember them, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
That's
I care about the old lady. I think she's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Fushi.
Just makes me think of like feeling like you as a viewer or reader, you're like Fushi's still the character you've known throughout this entire series, but then there's a whole new cast of people, and you're like, what happened in the beginning? And then Fushi's that one character that's like, that's right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, like Fushi, and we've touched on this a little bit, but like, you know, he is just an instigator for things to happen, but it really easily could have been like just like an omniscient narrator, you know, kind of thing, like, you know, and we're just like jumping to these different stories of people, like, and maybe like, you know, something else happens that makes things happen, but like not one specific person.
There's like, why? Yeah, I don't know. A lot of things that are held together by plot feels a little bit random because, like, why does the bear show up? I mean, Fushi defeats it, and that's why, like, Perona and, like, March are able to escape, but, like, the bear wouldn't have shown up, and Perona could have just waited for them to leave then.
Yeah, we forgot to touch on it a little bit, but, like, there is, like, something to be said for, like, maybe, like, even though the bear is, like, just a bear, you know, maybe it is still, like, it's not magical, but it is,
A spirit bear.
yeah, like, it's less of, like, it's a deity and more of, like, a spiritual in nature. Like, you know, it is,
Nature,
you
spirit.
mean magic from the New Mutants? I think it's magic.
You're thinking of Mirage.
Are you talking about a person?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's a person. You saw the New Mutants, right?
No, I did not see the movie.
Well, so in the beginning, like, a village gets attacked by a bear.
Yeah,
But-
no, that's
Darn those
Danny
bears.
Moonstar.
I don't remember enough.
Yeah. Magic's the blonde one.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wait, Danny's the girl.
Well, there's multiple girls on the team.
But Danny is a girl.
Yes.
Okay,
What a
when you said it, I thought
trailblazer.
of a guy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Danny
I
is a
agree
girl.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right. You don't have to agree with me.
You are correct.
I acknowledge that what you say is the truth.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
In conclusion, nah, it was good, but it was good for what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a continued story. Meh. Why does it have to continue?
Yeah.
To what end? What will he discover?
The true spirit of being human.
Yeah. It definitely seems like the purpose of like having your main character be like, you know, an immortal being, you know, that's like learning about like all of these different human experiences is like leading to something, but like there isn't enough clues. Like, you know, we can kind of like ascertain like, well, maybe it's this, but like we should have a little bit more of a clue.
2 volumes you've already bought. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they should have given Perona or March or somebody, or like even the boy, less of a vague motivation than like go out and experience the world, but like maybe do something specific, and through that he can experience the world. I'm like, gonna go light the Olympic torch. That's my motivation. But he's gotta go there to do it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? There's no reason. Like, he's just gonna wander off now.
Right.
Which he really is.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's all that we have, though. So, thank you everybody for listening. This has been the Comic Panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Taylon.
And I'm Shawenta.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe, as it helps us out in the YouTube algorithms and helping us being seen by more and more people. And be sure to hit the bell notification so that you won't miss a single video. And if you're listening to us on podcast format, be sure to rate and review our podcast, as that also helps us out in the algorithms and being seen by more and more people. Thank you, and have a blessed day.